Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees, the podcast. Well, I figured this episode would go off the field since it's been kind of miserable on the field for the Yankees. So wanted to react to that A-Rod story. I'm sure you might have seen some of the headlines. Basically, he did a little tattletaling on some other players, and that goes back to the 2014 biogenesis scandal where A-Rod ended up serving a 211-game suspension. And then, of course, again, as I mentioned before, he supposedly did a little tattletaling some other players revealed. So, it was an article, it was an expose. It was in ESPN, which is kind of weird because, A-Rod's doing like the show, with Michael K. So it's kind of weird that they would kind of do a story on him. But I guess, the news is the news. And it also got some coverage in the New York Post as well. So in case you didn't know the story, you didn't hear the story, I'll kind of give you a quick summary of it, kind of the bullet points of what happened in each year. And then, of course, I'll react to it. So again, we're staying off the field on this one. But before we do, as always, make sure you subscribe to the podcast to get cool little episodes like this. And of course, get wrap-up reports after each series, even though the season's winding down. But it's going to be a long off series. Again, the Yankees have to do a lot of work on this roster right now. And, we'll see if even Cashman's around to be the one to do it. Probably is, but we'll see. Ton of stuff for the offseason, so you don't want to miss any of it, so make sure you check it out. And if you want to go over to the YouTube channel, Section 420 Talkin Yankees, just dropped the most recent episode. Kind of overlap with some of the Yankee injuries, but also did a tail of the tape on Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the 25-year-old Japanese pitching phenom, who most recently threw a no-hitter, and Brian Cashman and Omar Minai actually flew out there for the game. I'm sure he left a good impression on Cashman, yes, and supposedly the Yankees are going to go hard after him. So if you're not familiar with him, check out the YouTube episode. I kind of give you all the ins and outs about him. And again, he's someone who possibly might be in a Yankee uniform next season. So get all that good stuff. So again, want to get back to this article. I just noticed the other day, quite extensive on A-Rod, and it goes back to the 2014 biogenesis scandal. It was with the Florida-based doctor Anthony Bosch there. And supposedly, again, he had some little goodies there, PED stuff, gummies, shots, and cream, and clear, and all these stuff for players to use without sending any PED red flags off there. And supposedly, obviously, A-Rod was one of the customers. And turns out that basically federal authorities questioned A-Rod about this and gave him what they call Queen for a Day status. So basically, it gives you an opportunity to tell the truth, get everything off your chest, but you're not going to be prosecuted for it. So again, it makes you like Queen for the Day. Again, I don't know what the actual crime would be. I guess purchasing illegal drugs. I meant, lying about doing drugs or failing a Major League Baseball test. I meant, okay, you get fined. I don't know if that's exactly legal, but again, I'm just assuming purchasing quote-unquote illegal drugs from this Bosch guy. I guess that would be the crime there. So I guess this was an opportunity for A-Rod to just get it all off his chest and not face any prosecution afterwards. So this happened, obviously, goes back to 2014. That's when A-Rod actually got the suspension from Major League Baseball's 211 games, which ironically took him out of the final season for Derek Jeter there. So, he wasn't around for Derek's final lap there in a Yankee uniform. And I kind of remember that spring training when Derek Jeter was asked, he just bluntly said, well, now we don't have to talk about it. And I'm sure Jeter was more unhappy not having A-Rod around and have to answer those type of questions, when he's trying to, end his Yankee career with, at least some calmness and, talking about just the baseball stuff and not steroids and PEDs. So A-Rod got that suspension in 2014. Now, this incident with the federal authorities supposedly happened shortly after. They went to him and they came to him and he named 3 other players. Now, one of the players he named was Manny Ramirez, saying he's also a customer of this Bosch gentleman, as well as a Milwaukee Brewers star back then, Ryan Braun, and then third player. Now, this third player, neither the Post nor ESPN mentioned the name. I don't know if they would even know, but suppose that name is being withheld just because that player never actually failed a PED test. So I guess, it's just really on A-Rod's word, but if you never failed a test, I guess you can't really say the person used the stuff. So again, that third player who we don't know, supposedly an all-star type player, but again, goes unnamed because that person never actually failed the test. Who could it be? Who knows? You can only speculate at this point. Could it be Ortiz, who's very friendly with A-Rod and also very friendly with Manny Ramirez? I mean, it would seem a logical name, but again, that's all speculation. No one knows who it could be. So supposedly A-Rod named these 3 players and kind of just mentioned, basically it was his cousin Yuri, who was A-Rod's sidekick ever since A-Rod entered the league in 1994. He's kind of his gopher, his assistant, his go-to guy. Supposedly he's the one who reached out to Bosch in 2010. Now, if you want to go back to A-Rod's injury, with the Yankees, 2008, that's when he, after that 2008 season, that's when he had the hip injury, needed surgery on it. He missed like about a month of the 2009 season, but when he started, obviously, he had that great year for the Yankees and, of course, carried them through the postseason. Again, without A-Rod, there's no way the Yankees win that World Series. I mean, he literally carried them there. So, all the A-Rod hatred, you got to at least give him his credit for that, and I always will. Never understood why they would boo the guy, because, again, he single-handedly got the Yankees at 2009 World Series championship. A little help in other areas, but it was all him. But nevertheless, back to the scandal there. So supposedly it was in 2010 when Yuri reached out to this Bosch guy in Florida. I guess gave him some samples, some gummies, and then I guess that's when A-Rod, finally got hooked up with him and started using the stuff. Now, a couple of years later in 2012, supposedly there was a falling out between A-Rod and this cousin Yuri. I believe his name is Yuri Surkot, something like that, where basically I think A-Rod accused him of squandering some of his money, anywhere from $250,000 up to $500,000. And supposedly Yuri was going to blackmail A-Rod for $5 million, basically say, well, if you don't pay me $5 million, I'm going to tell people you've been using this Bosch guy for the past couple of years. Supposedly they settled at $900,000. That was the payoff to Yuri to keep him quiet. And then since then, I guess the Miami Herald reported that since 2012, again, A-Rod and Yuri no longer have any sort of business relationship or whatever like that, or completely fell out of favor with each other. And again, it was finally a couple years later in 2014, this got out that A-Rod, was using the biogenesis stuff. And then, of course, he had a phone call from Randy Levine. He swore up and down that no, he had nothing to do with this. Of course, that was a lie. And if you remember, around that same time, he went on with Mike Francesa right on the air, denied it millions of times that he did not use biogenesis, didn't cheat, or anything like that. But I guess nobody believed him. And eventually, this 211-game suspension came down. Of course, he missed the 2014 season and a chunk of 2015, and then again finally retired. 2016, the Yankees basically told him, take the rest of your money for this year and just go home. You're done. So that's the A-Rod tale. So the bad part about this confirms that he's a liar. I mean, he lied about using the biogenesis. Now look, I can understand the point. There's a lot of money involved here, especially, he lost his 2014 salary, and guy's rich a million times over. But you can understand him taking his position at that then, that he didn't use anything. He's just going to try to say anything to avoid a suspension or losing that money. I mean, you're talking about like $25 million worth of salary, which, again, right now it seems like every other player. But back then, again, he was one of the highest paid players in the game. So he's going to take that stance, and business-wise, you can see why he's going to do it, but it's not a good look on him, so it confirms that. And, of course, even worse look that he gave away 3 other players that were using the stuff as well. And, again, that's a bad look for him. So, again, he doesn't come looking good out of this article here. This looks like a liar all around, and it's just kind of a shame because it seems like, A-Rod, ever since he retired, seemed like he's recouped his status a little bit. Had the little fling with J-Lo there, and, of course, that ended. Of course, anything with J-Lo is always going to last for a couple of months anyway. But it kind of got him in a bit of a positive limelight. Then he started doing ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, and he's kind of, showing more of his personality. Then we see him doing the Fox pregame stuff as well with Derek Jeter. So it kind of seemed like, he's recouped his reputation a little bit, but now you're going to see with this stuff, it kind of puts him back in a bad light. And you just kind of remember that, A-Rod has always had this grimy side to him, again, great player, fantastic player. I think he should be a Hall of Famer. It's probably not going to happen. But there's always these scandals with different, women on the side and mistresses and things like this, and I don't get all this stuff. And also, supposedly, it was said that he also took Viagra and Cialis for fun, and this little grimy things about A-Rod. Just always have that little grimy side to him. And, it's just, it's just kind of unfortunate because on the field, so talented, knows the game, good hitter, and it seems like a lot of young players always looked up to him and everything like that. But, again, there's always this little grimy side to A-Rod, and no matter how much money he has, he just always seems like a little dirty, a little grimy there. So that's the whole expose on A-Rod. We'll see what the fallback is. So, obviously, we all knew he was guilty with the biogenesis stuff, but then now naming names, again, people always say that's the worst thing you could do, be a rat, as they say. So if that's the case, again, he's probably going to get some blowback for that. So that's the episode. So again, in case you didn't read the article, it's quite long, quite extensive. I kind of give you the bullet points there. The timeline kind of goes with, some blackmail involved, some Cialis involved, some Viagra involved, got everything involved there. So we'll catch you next time.